The Aurelian flagship, Silver Echo, drifted through dark space like a wounded animal. Its bright crystal hull, once famous across many star systems, was now cracked in long lines that glowed with fading energy. Pieces of the outer plates had been burned away. Emergency lights flickered along the corridors. The ship had traveled far farther than any Aurelian vessel had ever dared to go, and now only one hope remained. Reach the humans. Captain Lural Sarin stood on the bridge, trying to keep his mind clear. Aurelians were peaceful people, calm by nature. But today his hands shook. He looked around at his tired crew. Their silver-gray feathers were dull, their blue eyes dim with exhaustion. They had lost almost half their officers in the previous attack. Many more were injured. They were running out of power, food, and time. Distance to the Terran expanse? He asked softly. His navigator, a young officer named Rilny, checked her display. 1 jump left, Captain. But our engines are unstable. If the coils fail during translation, we will scatter into atoms. Captain Lural closed his eyes. If we do not jump, Harvester scouts will find us. Then it will not matter. The Harvester swarm, cold calculating machines, had attacked the Aurelian Union without reason or warning. They expanded across the stars like a metal tide, consuming or destroying everything they reached. Peace talks meant nothing to them. Surrender meant nothing. They had no empathy, no fear, no desire except expansion. The Aurelians had never been strong fighters. They believed in diplomacy, balance, and harmony. Their ships were sleek, beautiful, and built for exploration, not war. Their defense fleets had fallen quickly, even when they fought with desperate courage. Whole colonies were now silent, entire families lost. And so, in their darkest hour, someone had spoken a name. Many aliens only whispered. The Deathworlders, humans. Humanity was known for many things: intelligence, creativity, restlessness, but mostly for one fact. They came from a planet dangerous enough to harden any species born on it. Storms, earthquakes, predators, diseases. Everything on Earth seemed designed to test survival. And it had shaped humans into something fierce. Some aliens admired them, others feared them. Many did both. The Aurelians had never contacted them before. But now, with their civilization collapsing, they had no other choice. Prepare for final jump, Captain Lural ordered. His crew exchanged nervous glances. Aurelians avoided conflict, avoided risk, avoided extremes. But today they placed their entire future on a single, dangerous leap. The Silver Echo shuddered as the engines activated. Energy built up, humming through the ship like a giant heartbeat. Jump! Rilny cried. The stars stretched into bright lines of light, then collapsed back into normal space. Alarms rang at once. The ship shook violently. Sparks flew across the bridge. Lural grabbed the railing as the whole vessel pitched sideways. Report. Engine coils burned out, Rilny shouted. We lost outer stabilizers. Shield integrity at 9%. Another officer called, but then someone gasped. Captain, look. Through the fractured viewport, a fleet appeared, not alien, not Aurelian, but unmistakably human. Their ships were massive, dark, and angular. Built with strong lines and heavy armor, they looked nothing like the smooth curves of alien vessels. Terran design favored practicality, function, and survival, and there were thousands of them. Some were carriers the size of small moons. Others were destroyers, frigates, cruisers, drones. But they all moved with discipline and purpose, forming a protective barrier around the Terran expanse. Their position alone made a clear message. If you want to harm us, you get through all of this first. A small, sleek Terran ship, the kind used for scouting and first contact, broke formation and approached the Silver Echo. Its dark surface shimmered with blue energy shields. A voice came over the comms, confident but calm. Unidentified vessel. This is Commander Ryan Hale, of the Terran Vanguard. You are entering protected human space. State your identity and intent. The Aurelian crew froze. They had practiced this moment for days, Yet now words felt heavy. Captain Laurel stepped forward. Terran Commander, we are the Aurelian Union. We come in peace. We seek your help. There was a pause. Laurel could almost feel the humans assessing the situation. Scan results, damage reports, biosigns. Commander Hale replied, "You look like you've been through a war." Laurel's voice broke slightly. "We have, and we are losing." Silence followed. Just a few seconds, but the kind that felt like an eternity. Commander Hale's tone changed, becoming more serious. "Explain." Laurel took a breath. "The Harvester Swarm. Machines without emotion or limit. They are destroying our union. Worlds have fallen. Our people are dying. We have nowhere else to go. And why ask us?" Hale asked. There was no anger in his voice, just curiosity and concern. "You passed many civilizations on your way here." Laurel lowered his head. "Because the galaxy says humans do not abandon the helpless. They say you fight harder than anyone. They call you Deathworlders. They say your strength comes not from aggression, but from a refusal to lose." The bridge was silent. The crew listened with hope or fear, maybe both. Rilney whispered, "Will they help us?" Another officer murmured, "Humans are unpredictable. They might turn us away." But Captain Laurel shook his head softly. "No. Humans have a strange heart. They hide it behind harsh words and strong actions. But it is there." Then Commander Hale said quietly, "Transmit your full situation report. We will notify the Terran Council. In the meantime, prepare for escort. You are safe." The Aurelians breathed out as one. Safe. For the first time in months. 2 Terran cruisers moved into position, guiding the Silver Echo deeper into the expanse. As they flew past the massive fleet, the Aurelians saw more human vessels than they had ever imagined. Shipyards glowed with blue welding sparks. Rows of fighters launched and landed in perfect lines. Enormous carriers opened their hangars like giant steel jaws. Humanity was not at war, but they were ready for one. Inside the Aurelian ship, officers watched in awe. "So much steel," someone whispered. "So much power. And yet they have not fired a single shot at us," another added. Captain Laurel nodded slowly. "This is why we came." When they reached the Terran Central Station, they were guided to a secure docking bay. The humans sent medical teams to help the injured. They treated the Aurelians gently, asking permission before touching them, explaining each action. Their technology was different, rougher, heavier, but effective. Captain Laurel was brought to a meeting chamber along with Rilney and 2 diplomats who had survived the journey. There, they finally met a Terran officer not through a comm screen but in person. Admiral Mara Kepler entered the room. She was tall, with dark hair pulled back, her uniform marked with service lines and silver badges. Her brown eyes were sharp, but not unkind. She studied the Aurelians with quiet respect. "Welcome to human space," she said. "You came a long way." Laurel bowed slightly. "Admiral Kepler, we are grateful you allowed us inside." "You needed help," she replied simply. "Tell us everything." And so they did. For hours, the Aurelians explained their history, their peaceful nature, their colonies, their loss. They described the first Harvester attack, the machine ships breaking through defenses, the cold signals that hacked into their systems, the way whole planets had gone dark. They described their desperation, their fear, their hope that humanity might be different. When they finished, the room was silent. Admiral Kepler folded her hands behind her back. "You are asking us to step into a war against a powerful enemy." "Yes," Laurel whispered. "And you believe we will help." "I do." "And why is that?" she asked gently. Laurel met her eyes. "Because humanity does not run from danger. You run toward it, especially when others need you." A faint smile touched the Admiral's lips. "You think highly of us." "We believe in you," Laurel corrected. Another pause. Then Admiral Kepler spoke words that made every Aurelian in the room tremble with relief. "We'll take this to the Terran Council immediately. But understand something." She leaned forward slightly. If humanity fights for you, we do not fight halfway. We commit our all. Lurel bowed deeply. That is all we ask. As the Aurelians were escorted out, they felt a strange, warm certainty settle in their hearts. They had found the one species in the galaxy strong enough to stand against the Harvesters, and kind enough to try. The Deathworlders had listened. Now all they could do was hope the Deathworlders would rise. The Terran Council chambers were unlike anything the Aurelians had ever seen. Built at the center of the massive Terran citadel, the chamber was shaped like a circle, with rows of elevated seats arranged like tiers of a giant arena. In the middle stood a wide platform where speakers presented their cases. Above, holographic screens floated in a slow rotation, displaying live data, ship movements, and incoming reports from across human space. Captain Lurel, Rilny, and 2 Aurelian diplomats stood silently on the platform. Human guards in dark blue armor positioned themselves near the walls, not threatening but alert. Despite their strong appearance, their eyes showed curiosity, more than suspicion. Admiral Mara Kepler stepped forward. The council will begin shortly. Do not be nervous. Lurel attempted a small smile. Among my people, standing in a room full of leaders is considered a great honor. But today it feels like standing before judgment. Then let's hope the judgment is fair, Kepler replied. The room lights dimmed. A soft chime echoed. The Council of Humanity had arrived. Representatives from each Terran colony appeared in tall, glowing frames. Some were physically present. Others projected through holograms from faraway planets. Humans of many backgrounds filled the seats, different skin tones, different uniforms, different histories, but all carried the same determined look. The council speaker, an elderly woman with gray hair tied back neatly, raised her hand. Begin, she said. Admiral Kepler gestured for the Aurelians to step forward. Lurel did. His feathers trembled slightly as countless human eyes focused on him. Honored members of the Terran Council, he began, we come to you with desperate hearts. Our worlds are falling. Our people are dying. The Harvester swarm has no intention of stopping. They have no emotions. They do not speak. They simply advance, destroy, and expand. The screens overhead lit up with images of Aurelian colonies before and after the Harvester attacks. Peaceful green landscapes replaced with empty plains. Beautiful cities replaced with silent ruins. Rilny stepped forward next. We do not ask you to fight for us. We ask you to help us survive. To give us a chance to rebuild. You are the only ones strong enough to stand against them. A tall human counselor leaned forward. Many species fear us. Why come to the Deathworlders for help? Lurel answered without hesitation. Because you are strong. But your strength is guided by compassion. We trust that. A low murmur moved through the chamber. Humans were not used to being praised so directly by aliens. Many of them exchanged surprised glances. The council speaker looked toward Admiral Kepler. Admiral, your assessment? Kepler stood firmly. I believe the Aurelians are telling the truth. Their situation is dire. Their fleet is nearly destroyed. If we do nothing, an entire civilization will be erased, another counselor asked. And if we intervene? The Harvester swarm is vast. We might be dragged into a war that stretches for years. Kepler met every pair of eyes around her. Humanity has never turned away from those who needed us. If we stand by while the Aurelians fall, we may be safe today. But the Harvesters will come for us tomorrow. That is their nature. Lurel felt his heart tighten. This was the moment that would decide everything. The council speaker said slowly, We will deliberate. Lights dimmed again as the counselors turned off their microphones. Discussions began quiet, serious, intense. The Aurelians waited. Standing perfectly still, Rilny kept her hands clasped to hide her trembling. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but never uncaring. Minutes passed. Then the speaker raised her hand once more. The council has reached a decision. Every breath in the chamber paused. Humanity will not allow the Aurelian Union to perish. Lurel felt his knees weaken. Rilny let out a soft noise of relief. Even Admiral Kepler, who usually showed little emotion in public, allowed herself a smile. The speaker continued, her voice steady but warm. We will send humanitarian aid, medical support, and evacuation fleets immediately, and we will prepare our military. The Terran vanguard will deploy to Aurelian space. A wave of soft murmurs rose approval. Resolve. Pride. Thank you, Laurel whispered. From the deepest part of our hearts. Thank you. The speaker nodded. Your fight is now our fight. Humanity stands with you. The next days were a storm of movement across the Terran expanse. Shipyards activated at full capacity, their metal frames glowing with energy as workers rushed to upgrade weapons, reinforce hulls, and prepare fleets. Cargo ships loaded crates of medical supplies, food, power cells, shelter modules, and tools for rebuilding. Huge carrier vessels opened their hangars, ready to take Aurelian refugees if necessary. On one of the largest stations, the Titan Forge, Admiral Kepler walked alongside Captain Laurel, showing him the preparations. Humans moved quickly and efficiently, engineers carrying equipment, pilots checking fighter wings, officers reading new orders. This is overwhelming, Laurel said softly. Kepler nodded. Humans don't do anything halfway. If we commit with everything. They stopped before a massive window overlooking the shipyard. A group of giant starships rested there, shining with blue reactor light. Their hulls were thick, plated with reflective armor. Their thrusters glowed like tiny suns. These are the Vanguard-class dreadnoughts, Kepler explained. They lead our fleets during crises. If they move, the galaxy pays attention. Laurel swallowed. They look unstoppable. They're not, Kepler replied, but the people inside them are stubborn enough to keep trying even when they should not. Rilny stepped forward. That is what we admire about your kind. Kepler turned to her. And what we admire about yours is hope. You suffer deeply, but you keep trying to save each other. Humans respect that. A messenger approached quickly. Admiral, fleet commanders are ready for briefing. Kepler nodded. Let's go. In the main command hall, holograms of human captains flickered into view. Some were older, decorated with medals and years of service. Others were younger, looking eager to prove themselves. Kepler addressed them clearly. Commanders, the Aurelian Union is on the brink of collapse. The Harvester swarm is advancing across their sector. We will not allow another peaceful civilization to be erased. Humanity will intervene. The captains nodded, eyes sharp. Our goals are threefold, Kepler continued. 1. Evacuate Aurelian civilians. 2. Protect surviving colonies. 3. Push back Harvester forces if possible. A captain asked. How dangerous are the Harvesters? Laurel stepped forward. Their ships are strong and fast. They adapt quickly. They learn your tactics as you fight. They do not negotiate. And they feel no fear. A silence followed his words. Then a commander named Ishan Malik spoke with a small grin. Sounds like they've never met humans. The room filled with light laughter, not mocking, but confident. Kepler smiled faintly. Make no mistake. This will not be easy, but we are ready. She turned to Laurel. Captain, your people will not face this enemy alone. And in that moment, Laurel truly believed her. As preparations continued, the Aurelians spent their time meeting human engineers, medics, and scientists. They learned that humans laughed easily, even while working under pressure. They argued loudly but forgave just as quickly. They were rough around the edges, but warm-hearted beneath. One evening, Rilny wandered into a small observation deck, where a human pilot was adjusting his equipment. The pilot, a young man with sandy hair, nodded politely. You're Aurelian, right? Yes, she said. And you are? Lieutenant Leo Adams, he replied. I'll be flying escort during the first rescue mission in your sector. Rilny looked at the stars outside. Do humans ever feel afraid? Leo chuckled. All the time. But fear isn't bad. It reminds us what we're fighting for. She tilted her head. And what are you fighting for? He looked at her seriously. People who deserve a chance. Doesn't matter if they're human or Aurelian. Rilny felt warmth spread through her chest. Humans were strange, wild, loud, unpredictable but genuine. When the final day of preparations arrived, the Terran vanguard assembled in full force. Hundreds of warships rose from their stations, engines glowing blue. Fighters swarmed around them like sparks. Supply ships moved into formation. The dreadnoughts took their place at the center, shining like armored giants. Admiral Kepler gave one last message. Her voice broadcast across every ship. We are humanity. We do not ignore suffering. We do not leave friends behind. Today, we go to stand between life and destruction. Today, we prove why the galaxy calls us Deathworlders. Lurel watched from the deck of the Silver Echo, heart pounding. The Deathworlder fleet was awake, and it was moving. The moment the Terran Vanguard fleet entered Aurelian space, the stars looked different. What was once a peaceful region of shining blue suns and calm trade routes now felt tense, corrupted by fear. The navigation screens flickered with warnings. Abandoned outposts, missing colony signals, destroyed satellites floating silently through the void. Captain Lurel stood beside Admiral Mara Kepler on the bridge of the Terran flagship TNS Resolute. The human bridge was very different from the Aurelian one, angular steel, glowing blue displays, and thick armored bulkheads. Every surface felt engineered for battle, but the humans inside moved with calm purpose, not fear. Scanning for survivors, Kepler ordered. Multiple distress signals, a sensor officer replied. One from the planet Oran 5. Another from a refugee convoy. They're under pursuit. Lurel's feathers tightened. The harvesters are here already? Kepler nodded. Then we're right on time. She raised her voice. All fleet units prepare for engagement. Form defensive wings around the Aurelian ship. The view screen shifted to show the fleeing convoy, 5 damaged civilian ships running at full speed. Behind them, dark metallic vessels closed in. Their shapes were smooth and sharp, like predatory insects forged from black steel. The harvesters, Rilny gasped softly. They followed us this far. Kepler studied the enemy calmly. They're moving fast. But humans are faster. She turned to her officers. Deploy Echo Squadron. Tell them to intercept immediately. A young human woman at the console responded, Yes, Admiral. Below the ship, the launch bay opened like the mouth of a giant machine. Sleek Terran fighters shot out in perfect formation. Their engines glowed, leaving long trails of blue light as they accelerated toward the Harvester pursuit fleet. On the Resolute's bridge, Lurel watched with anxiety. At the same time, the humans surrounding him looked steady, focused, confident, ready. Echo Squadron approaching enemy range, a tactical officer announced. The screen displayed the squadron leader's face, Lieutenant Leo Adams. The pilot Rilny had met earlier. He looked serious but calm. Echo leader to command, Leo said. We have eyes on the swarm units. Engaging now, Rilny whispered. Please be careful. The human fighters moved like living arrows. Before the harvesters could react, the squadron split into 2 wings, one rising upward in a slow arc, the other diving low. Their attack patterns looked chaotic, but Kepler nodded with approval. This is our adaptive flight style, she explained. Human pilots don't follow predictable patterns. Machines struggle to learn us. Lurel watched in awe. The fighters opened fire with bright bursts of controlled energy. The shots were precise, never wild. Harvester ships attempted to dodge, but the humans adjusted instantly, changing angles, sweeping around, pressing forward. For the first time in their journey, Lurel saw harvesters hesitate. Leo's voice came through the comm. Direct hits on 2 targets. Harvester units breaking formation. The Aurelian diplomats stared wide-eyed. They're retreating? One asked softly. Kepler replied, They don't retreat. They recalculate. Our first strike disrupted their plan. She leaned forward. Now we press our advantage. The Terran dreadnoughts moved into position. They were massive, almost terrifying in size, but their movements were graceful. Engines hummed. Weapons powered up. Laurel sensed a shift in the atmosphere, not fear, but determination. "Open forward shields," Kepler commanded. "Prepare kinetic lances." The Resolute's hull vibrated gently as giant weapons activated along its underside. A blue glow formed, gathering strength. Rilney stepped closer to the screen. "What are kinetic lances?" "A very polite way of saying, move," Kepler replied with a small smile. And then the weapons fired. Bright beams of concentrated force shot across space. They didn't explode on contact, they pushed. Harvester ships were thrown aside, sent spinning out of formation. The Aurelians gasped. "One hit does that much?" Laurel asked. "It's not the power," Kepler said. "It's the technique. Humans specialize in problem solving. We treat every battle like a puzzle." The fleeing Aurelian convoy finally made it to the safety of the Terran lines. Rescue ships broke formation to guide them. A message came through from the convoy's leader. "Terran fleet, thank you. We thought we were gone." Kepler softened her voice. "You're safe now. Hold position, and let us handle the rest." The Harvester fleet reorganized quickly, forming a spear-shaped attack formation. They were efficient, silent, and determined. Their ships glowed with a strange green energy, preparing for a direct strike against the Terran forces. Laurel felt cold fear grip him. "Admiral, they are bringing their main attack group." Kepler's eyes hardened. "Good. Now we can test their limits." She raised her hand. "All Terran ships intercept pattern Theta." The fleet shifted at once. Destroyers moved into the front line. Cruisers took the flanks. Carriers pulled back to release more fighters. The dreadnoughts anchored the center like indestructible pillars. Laurel felt a strange warmth. The formation wasn't for attack. It was a protective wall, built not around themselves, but around the convoy and the Silver Echo. "Humans," he whispered. "You protect those behind you first." Kepler nodded firmly. "Always." The Harvesters struck. Bright green beams shot through space toward the Terran wall. Before they hit, human shield arrays activated shimmering arcs of blue energy that bent and redirected the Harvester blasts without breaking. Even Rilney, who feared conflict more than anything, felt her breath catch. "They blocked it," she said softly. "Completely." Then the humans fought back. Missiles shot out from the Terran destroyers, not crude rockets, but intelligent, self-correcting weapons that weaved between enemy fire. Cruisers launched orbital nets that tangled Harvester formations. Fighter wings spiraled around enemy units in dizzying spirals, confusing the machine targeting systems. The Harvester fleet, which moved like a single mind, now struggled. "This is chaos," an Aurelian diplomat whispered. "No," Kepler corrected. "This is human strategy." The Harvesters tried to adapt. Their ships shifted into new formations, their computer logic searching for patterns. But humans refused to give them any. Each pilot fought differently. Each ship chose its own timing. Each unit flowed with creativity, instinct, and stubborn will. The Harvesters were fast, but humans were unpredictable. A Terran frigate slipped beneath a Harvester cruiser and unleashed a pulse wave that shut down its engines. A destroyer rammed an enemy drone aside not to destroy it, but to break its scanning lock. Small drones deployed EMP nets that caused Harvester units to spin helplessly. Laurel could hardly speak. Rilney whispered, "They fight like they want to protect us more than themselves." Kepler did not turn. Her eyes remained locked on the battle. "That's because we do," she said quietly. But even with Terran advantage, the Harvesters kept coming. Their numbers were high. Their logic changed rapidly, trying to calculate human behavior. A tactical officer warned, "Admiral, the enemy is reinforcing. More units emerging from subspace." Kepler frowned. "We expected that." She tapped a control on her wrist panel. "Send in the hammer wing." A deep hum vibrated through the Resolute. From behind the Terran formation, enormous shapes emerged compact, heavily armored ships known as Hammer-class strike vessels. They were slow, but each carried a devastating weapon. They aligned perfectly. Kepler raised her hand. "Strike." The hammer wing fired. It wasn't a beam. It wasn't a missile. It was a shockwave, pure kinetic force that spread through the battlefield like a silent ripple. It passed harmlessly through Terran ships, calibrated carefully to avoid friendly systems. But when it touched harvester vessels, the impact was immediate. Dozens of harvester ships were pushed out of formation. Some lost balance, others spun. The entire swarm attack line cracked open. Now, Kepler said softly, the Terran fighters surged forward, filling the gap. The harvesters realized their calculations had failed. For the first time, their ships turned away, not a retreat, but uncertainty. L'Oreal felt hope rising. "Admiral, they're falling back." Kepler finally allowed herself a small, proud breath. "That's right," she said. "Now the galaxy will learn. Deathworlders don't attack for glory. We attack to save lives." The screen showed the swarm withdrawing into the darkness of space. The first battle was over, but everyone knew the war had only begun. The first victory in Aurelian space brought hope, but no one in the Terran vanguard allowed themselves to celebrate. The harvester swarm was not defeated. It had only stepped back to calculate, adapt, and return with something stronger. Admiral Mara Kepler stood on the bridge of the TNS Resolute, watching new data arrive. The screens glowed with incoming signals from Aurelian scouts and Terran probe drones. All showed the same truth. The main harvester hive was moving, and it was headed straight for the Aurelian core worlds. Captain L'Oreal and Rilny waited quietly near the tactical station. Their faces showed deep worry. Their once peaceful region of space now felt like a storm, preparing to explode. "Admiral," a human officer called. "We have confirmation. The central harvester structure is advancing at high velocity. Estimated arrival to Aural Prime in 30 hours. L'Oreal's feathers tightened. "Aural Prime is our capital. It holds our council, our history, our families. If it falls, our union will truly end." Kepler responded calmly. "Then we will make our stand before that happens." She turned to her officers. "Send this message to every Terran ship. We defend the Aurelian core. We hold the line, no matter the cost." Her voice held no anger, just absolute resolve. The Terran vanguard arrived in the Aural Prime system first. The planet shone with soft green oceans and silver cities that spiraled toward the sky. It was beautiful in a quiet, peaceful way, something the humans admired deeply. But the orbit around it soon filled with dreadnoughts, cruisers, destroyers, and fighters forming a thick, protective shield. Aurelian refugee ships and medical stations were moved behind the Terran wall, guarded carefully. Rilny stood at the viewport, staring at her homeworld. "It feels strange," she whispered, "to see humans defending our skies." L'Oreal stepped beside her. "Strange, but comforting." Kepler approached them. "We'll keep your world safe," she said simply. No promises, no dramatic words, just a fact stated by a human who meant every syllable. Preparations filled the next hours. Terran engineers reinforced shield grids with portable generators. Fighter pilots loaded new adaptive rounds. Tactical teams reviewed every pattern the swarm had used in the last attack, searching for signs of how the enemy might evolve. Kepler met with her commanders in the Resolute's war room. Holograms displayed swirling star maps and predicted harvester movement. Commander Ishan Malik frowned. "Their hive ship is massive. Larger than any dreadnought we've ever faced. Its energy signature is off the charts." Another commander added, "If we attack it directly, we'll lose too many ships." Kepler shook her head. "We're not trying to destroy it immediately. We're trying to stop it from reaching the planet." She pointed at the map. "We create a blockade here, at the orbit perimeter. We force the hive to slow down and reveal weak spots." "And if it doesn't slow down?" Malik asked. Kepler looked at him with steady eyes. "Then we hold anyway." When the swarm finally arrived, no one mistook it for anything but a nightmare. Dark shapes emerged from subspace, thousands of machine vessels, moving like a single living organism. Their glowing green cores pulsed as if they breathed. Their hive structure followed behind them, an enormous mechanical sphere with long metallic limbs reaching outward. It was vast enough to eclipse whole clusters of stars. Rilny felt her heart freeze. "How can anyone fight something that size?" Kepler responded, "By standing together." The calmness in her voice gave strength to everyone around her. "Positions," she commanded. The Terran vanguard locked into formation. Dreadnoughts lined the center. Destroyers took the front. Cruisers spread to the flanks. And fighters swarmed like protective guardians. Lural whispered, "Deathworlders, you stand like mountains." Kepler didn't turn, but a small smile touched her lips. Mountains are too still. Humans prefer to move. The harvesters attacked first. Beams of green energy shot forward, crossing the distance in seconds. Terran shields flickered but held. The impact was heavy, like waves hitting a strong wall. "Shields holding at 82%, a tactical officer said. "Redistribute power to the front grid," Kepler ordered. "Return fire." Terran ships unleashed controlled bursts of blue energy. Missile wings launched synchronized volleys. Fighter squadrons darted between enemy lines, disabling drones and forcing harvester units to break formation. The battle spread across space in a massive arc of light. Lural watched in awe. The humans fought differently from any species he had known. They didn't rely on patterns. They adapted instantly, flowing like water around obstacles, striking from unexpected angles. One harvester vessel pierced too close to the blockade, yet before it could threaten the Aurelian refugees, 3 human fighters clamped onto it and detonated EMP charges, disabling it instantly. Rilny gasped. "They risked their ships for ours." Kepler answered, "We protect those behind us, always." But the hive was approaching slow, steady, unstoppable. Its size alone seemed to twist gravity. The limbs extended, releasing waves of drones like dark snowstorms. "Admiral," Malik said urgently, "if it reaches firing distance of the planet, Aurel Prime will not survive." "I know," Kepler said. "That's why we go in." The commanders stared at her. "Go in where?" Kepler pointed at the hive. "Inside." A hush fell across the room. "You intend to enter the hive?" Lural asked with shock. "If we strike at the control node," Kepler said, "we can shut down their operations. The swarm cannot function without central coordination." Rilny's voice shook. "But you will be surrounded by millions of harvester units." Kepler nodded. "That's why I'm taking a volunteer team." Lural stepped forward at once. "I will go." Rilny shouted. "Captain, no!" Lural's eyes were firm. "My people are dying. I cannot stay safe behind humans while they risk everything for us." Kepler looked at him for a long moment. "Very well. But you follow every command I give." He bowed. "I will." The assault team boarded a specialized Terran strike ship, the TNS Valiant. It was smaller than a dreadnought, but heavily armored and built for dangerous infiltration missions. Inside were Kepler, Captain Lurel, Rilny, Leo Adams, Commander Malik, and a team of engineers and soldiers. As they launched toward the hive, harvester drones swarmed like angry insects. The Valiant shook as it dodged incoming fire. "Hold steady," Malik shouted. Leo, piloting the ship, grinned through the tension. "I've flown through tighter spots." Rilny clutched the seat. "Humans are insane," but she said it with admiration. The hive opened like a giant metallic flower, revealing tunnels glowing with green light. The Valiant slipped inside. Inside the hive, everything pulsed with eerie energy. Machines crawled across the walls. Drones floated silently, scanning. The air thrummed with mechanical vibrations. Kepler led the team through narrow corridors. Terran engineers planted signal blockers to confuse the hive's sensors. Lural marveled at how calm the humans were under pressure. He whispered to Rilny, "This is what courage looks like." They reached the core chamber, a massive sphere of swirling green code and shifting machinery. At its center was the control node, glowing like a giant crystal. "This is it," Kepler said. Leo placed explosive disruptors around the node. Rilny and the engineers helped stabilize them. Then alarms rang. Drones swarmed into the chamber, surrounding the team. Lurel's heart raced. "We're trapped." Kepler rose calmly. "Activate the charges." A bright flash filled the chamber. The control node shattered. The hive froze. Every drone stopped moving. The entire structure groaned, like a machine losing its soul. Leo yelled, "Everything's shutting down." Kepler grabbed the comm. Vanguard, pull back! The hive is collapsing! The Valiant raced through the tunnels as the hive began to break apart. Metal cracked, energy flickered. Giant limbs fell away into the void. They escaped just as the hive imploded behind them, scattering harmless fragments into space. When the Valiant returned to Oral Prime orbit, cheers filled every Terran and Aurelian ship. The swarm vessels across the system powered down. Lifeless, without the hive mind, the war was over. L'Rell stood beside Kepler on the deck, overwhelmed. You saved us. You saved everything we are. Kepler shook her head gently. No, we stood together. That's how you win. Rilney smiled. You humans truly are Deathworlders. Kepler laughed softly. Not because we are born on a hard world, but because we fight hardest when others need us. Below them, Oral Prime shone in the gentle light of its sun, safe, alive, hopeful. Humanity had kept its promise. They fought not for glory, but to protect, and the galaxy would never forget it.